This is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
Welcome into another edition of the Patriots Drive Podcast. Got a big one. Officially week one, big divisional game to start off the season against the Miami Dolphins. We'll be going over that in detail today. Our predictions for the upcoming season, predictions for the game, stat lines, different players, all that stuff. So it's going to be a big episode. I'm here with my co-host, Jace Campbell. How's it going, Jace?
It's going good. Patriots game in 4 days. I don't even know. I'm thinking, but 4 days, excited. Can't wait to get into these predictions and start off what's going to be a good, season, hopefully, for Patriots fans.
Yeah, excited to get it started. I mean, big game to start off, divisional game against the Dolphins at home. It's going to be huge. Last year, we started off with the Dolphins as well. Always want to start off 1-0, especially when you're going up against a division opponent, especially this year. We're going to be tight with them record-wise. So every game matters, every game counts, especially when you're going against a divisional opponent.
For sure. Well, let's get right into it. We're going to kind of start with more of the full season predictions before we get into, predictions and preview for the Miami Dolphins. Let's start off. We're going to start with the season predictions right here. You can see what we both predicted on the screen with our records for the Patriots. Cole's going to pull up a graphic. We're going to kind of talk through the games that we see New England losing and the ones that we have marked that might be the tough ones. But here it is right here. Obviously 3-0 in the preseason, which doesn't count, sadly, but and that's not counting into our record predictions here. But Cole, I'll have you start off with some of the games that you see New England losing.
Yeah, so I mean, it starts off being not too bad the first few weeks. Miami, Jets, Saints, and then I think the Saints will be a tougher game than people expect. Then we got the Bucs at home. That one's going to be a tough one without Gilmore, the receiving threats that the Bucs have. That's going to be a really tough game. Texans, not too bad. Cowboys, not too bad. Jets, but then later in the seasons where it gets tough. You got a Chargers team who we did beat quite handedly last year, but they've improved a lot. Offensive line is better. Another year of experience, new coach, all that stuff. Panthers have been better. The Browns are going to be a great team this year. Titans, 2 games against the Bills, Colts. So I think there's a lot of different areas where we're going to have some challenges, especially late in the season where our bye week is the latest bye week you can have. I think it's week 14.
Yeah, it is.
Week 13.
Week 14 after Buffalo before the Colts.
Yeah. So, and the Colts also have up their bye week that week. So it's not like we have an advantage going there. So we don't have a bye week until after Buffalo. So that game against the Browns, Falcons, Titans, and then the Bills, that's going to be, they're going to be tired. They're going to be really hoping for a bye week soon. So I think those games are going to be a couple where I think the Falcons game, even though they're not that great, I think that could be a game that they could lose just because, hey, we're beat up, we're tired, and just based on the Falcons being fresher. So I think it's going to be hopefully a good start to the season, start out strong, because there could be a couple games later in the year that's going to be tough based on when our bye week is.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think I'm predicting us to start off 3-0. I think that we go into the Tampa Bay game 3-0, possibly them 3-0 also. It's going to be obviously the Sunday night game, which is going to be electric, but that's where I have them taking their first loss. Brady returning back to New England. It's just a little too good to be true. It's going to be a lot for Mac Jones, no matter how good he's playing. And we'll see how, like you mentioned, without Gilmore, how that receiving core is going to, work with JC Jackson and Jalen Mills and whoever else is emerging out there. But I don't see a loss coming there. I really do see us starting off. I have us at 6-2 because our next loss I see coming is going to be the Chargers. And I was erring on this, or kind of like debating on this one, because I don't know if the Chargers are a better team than us, but there's always a weird game that New England seems to slip up on. And in my podcast I just did the other day, I have I predicted Justin Herbert to win MVP. I'm high on Justin Herbert. I think he's going to be good. They have Joey Bosa. They have Derwin James healthy. I think that the Chargers, I think that this game can cause us fits. So that's the first two losses I see in the first half of the schedule. And then, like you mentioned, it's a tough schedule the back half. So here I have us starting with the Browns, then going Tennessee, and then losing at Buffalo, and then coming back. I see us beating Indianapolis. I see us beating Buffalo at home. I don't see us getting swept by Buffalo again. And then our last loss coming at Miami, which is going to be tough. You start with Miami, end with Miami. There's going to be a lot of time. So those are the 6 losses I kind of have on my radar right there. And the third one being if it were to happen, or the 7th one being if it were to happen. That Colts game, depending on how Carson Wentz is playing, the Colts have a really good defense. And T.Y. Hilton's always been good. They have a great rushing attack with Jonathan Taylor and their offensive line. So that would be the other one that I could see a loss happening. If 11 games seems a little too high for some people, 10-7 is within the realm of possibilities. And in the crazy, realm where we were to go 9-8, which I don't know if it's going to happen. The only other game I could see us struggling with is Buffalo if we were to get swept, or that Dallas one. But with Dallas coming to New England, I just don't see that being a loss. So those are the type of games that I kind of see New England having a hard time with.
Yeah, no, I agree. Michael, thanks for tuning in. Glad you could make it. But yeah, that Cowboys game I think is going to be tougher than we expect, just because Gilmore's still going to be out. That's kind of where I was bouncing around in my head between 10-7 and 11-6, and just Gilmore being out for 6 weeks, I think is going to be. I mean, it's a big deal. He's our number 1 lockdown corner. J.C. Jackson had his struggles last year a little bit, so I could see the Dallas game being one that we kind of slip up. I agree. The Chargers. I even think the Falcons, like I just mentioned, even though Falcons aren't the best team, I think on week to week, if we play the Falcons 10 times, I think we win 8, 9 out of 10 times. But there's always those weird games for the Pats. We always win a couple we probably weren't expected to, or might not have, shouldn't have won, but we always lose 1 or 2 that we really feel like we shouldn't have lost. So, and that Miami game is going to be tough. I don't think we'll get swept by any of the divisional opponents this year. I think we'll split all of them. Well, I think we'll hopefully beat the Jets twice, but split the rest. But that Miami game, I mean, January 9th, you're going from Foxborough, middle of winter, cold weather, to, I mean, 70, 80 degrees, hot, humid weather in Miami. So it's quite a temperature change. So Miami starting off with us week 1, when it's not cold, when it's still hot out, is kind of an advantage for them schedule-wise this year. But honestly, if our bye week was placed differently, I think I may have leaned a little closer to probably 11-6, just because the way the bye is, it's so late. I really do think that's going to play a factor into this 17-game season, longer season, late bye week. It's going to be tough. So, yeah, I think that Colts game, depending on how Carson Wentz does, like you said, they do have a great offensive line, great defense. T.Y. Hilton probably will be back by then. Michael Pittman did solid last year. I think he'll be good again this year. There's a lot of tough games on the schedule. So the good thing for us, though, most of those tough games are later in the season, where hopefully our team starts to build more chemistry. Mac has gotten used to NFL defenses and those sort of things. But yeah, it's going to be a fun season. And I think both our predictions are right around where I was hovering. So I think they'll be somewhere around that range, 10-7, 11-6.
Yeah, and you look at that 4 games before the bye week, where you're home against Cleveland and then a Thursday night game against the Falcons, it's away against Cleveland. It's home against Cleveland, and then you go to Atlanta on a Thursday night. And like you mentioned, 9 out of 10 times the Patriots would beat the Falcons on paper. But if it's going to be one where, New England were to slip up and lose, it's because they're on a short week. They got to travel to Atlanta. They got to play them there. Their bye week still 2 weeks away. Maybe that's a little lull. That's going to be week 11 in the season, 11 straight games. So, yeah, that Atlanta ones just seem to be placed very inconveniently. And then it doesn't get any easier after that before the bye, when you come home and you play Houston, or you play Tennessee, and then you go back on the road and you got to play, obviously the team that won the AFC East last year. They swept you. So that 4-game stretch right there before the bye week, I think, is crucial with how New England handles it and how they get to the bye week. And quite frankly, how healthy are they at the bye week too, is to finish off the last 4 games. How healthy is New England when they get to that week 14 bye?
I agree with you. I think that's going to be a huge stretch, honestly, because they realistically could lose all 4 of those games, which you don't love to hear. But I mean, I have them losing to Tennessee at home. I have them losing to the Bills on the road, Falcons is a toss-up. Browns is a toss-up. I mean, it's going to be it's a tough stretch at the end. So it's going to be really important. If this team wants to make the playoffs, these are the kind of stretches that you're going to have to get through and win a couple games. You know what I mean? This isn't, if you want to be a playoff team, you got to win the tough ones. And with tough circumstances, you got to come out on top. So I think there's a lot of tough games in that back end of the schedule. And I think it's going to be a really important stretch there. The good news, if you do make it to that bye week, you're going to have the latest bye of anybody, along with a few other teams that had that same bye. But you have that bye week. If you make it there with a solid record, you have the most rest heading into the playoffs if we make it there. So that's the only good news about having a bye week that late. But honestly, I think it's going to be a really tough stretch for us.
For sure. Yeah. Having that bye week, if you make the playoffs, is huge right there. Because if you're a team and you take the early bye, you have one of the earlier week bye weeks, it's week 4, 5, maybe 6. Then if you don't get that first round bye in the playoffs, you could be playing, 13, 14 straight games if you were to go to the Super Bowl. And that almost sounds a little less exciting than it does to play 13 straight games, bye on week 14. And then if you go to the Super Bowl, you're just playing 8 straight games. So yeah, that bye week, I would like to have moved it maybe to closer to the week 10 mark. Maybe week 10 would have been ideal, 11, yep. But it is where it is. Like you mentioned, you're going to have some tough parts in your schedule, and that's where it is for New England. And if we really think that New England's a playoff caliber team, it's going to prove in that 4 games right there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'd rather have the latest bye rather than the earliest bye. Some teams had a bye. I mean, last year it was different with COVID, but had a bye like week 4, week 5. That's tough, because then if you start at least with a late bye, you have something to look forward to. You say, okay, in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I'm tired right now, but there's a bye week in a few weeks and we're going to get a week off, get some rest, recover, all that stuff. When you got a bye week that early, you're like, all right, well, now it's end of the season, or we got to make the playoffs and get that bye, because otherwise we're not having a bye week till January, when we either lose, or February when we make it to the Super Bowl. And you know what I mean? So at least you have something to look forward to with a bye later in the season, and you should be fresher if you make it for the playoffs.
For sure. Well, tough schedule right there in those first 4 weeks there. I legitimately feel 6-2 in the first 8 weeks would be within very, I think it's very doable for this Patriots team. You look, Tampa Bay's tough. The Chargers could be tough. Maybe, Dallas is the tough one there, but that's still 6-2 week 8. And then you hit that week 9, Carolina, and then 10, 11, 12, 13 are the 4 that we just talked about. So New England could really start this year off strong, which I think would be big for the team. How, the record they had last year. And then obviously for Mac Jones, if he's on a team that's 6-2 coming into week 8, you got to be feeling pretty good about your rookie quarterback.
Yeah. And speaking of that rookie quarterback, we'll take this question from CJ Cy Games. Would we have a shot in the next few years to get a Super Bowl with Mac Jones? I'll let you touch on that one first.
Anything's possible. I mean, I think that Mac Jones has looked very good in preseason, and I don't know if a lot of people thought Patrick Mahomes was going to win a Super Bowl as soon as he did when he started playing in the preseason. So anything can happen. Now, I'm not going to compare Mac Jones to Patrick Mahomes, but like, anything can happen, guys. It's the NFL. He's with the best coach, in my opinion, in the NFL. He's in the best system he could be in. We signed great players in the offseason. This team could be 2 or 3 years away, and I really think that it's dependent on how Mac Jones plays and progresses. So I'm going to say yes. That's a very realistic thing to say. I saw Adam Schefter, I think, or someone today. Oh, it was Stephen A. Smith. He put the 5 teams that he realistically thinks could win the Super Bowl, and you put this up on your story. And number 5 was New England. So there's already people out there in the media outside of Patriots fans that think that New England could be in contention this year. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to win it, but I think if you're talking 3-4 years within the next few years is by what you mean, I think that that's a very, safe statement to say.
And I think as Pats fans, I mean, we expect a Super Bowl every couple of years, every few years. That's the standard around here. You know what I mean? Winning in New England is the standard. But I think everybody, I'm extremely excited. I have a lot of hope for what Matt can be and what he is currently. I think if we make it to the playoffs this year and have a close first playoff game, or even win one playoff game, I think that's a huge win for the season. And I'd be perfectly happy with that. It's his rookie year. So this season, I don't think there's a shot we win a Super Bowl. You never know. Injuries happen, things happen. You never know. And if there's one team that I'm going to bet on as an underdog, it's the New England Patriots. It's Bill Belichick. I think if we make it to the playoffs with Bill's mastermind and everything he does, when he puts it all into plan, I think anything can happen. So I think there's a shot. I think year one's going to be tough. I think year 2 and 3, I mean, that's when you want to start to have that window with keeping your rookie quarterback on that low money contract. That's when you could take advantage of the extra money that you can spend around defensive side of the ball, offensive, different stuff like that. So yeah, I hope that Mac continues to progress, and I don't see any reason why we can't win a Super Bowl while he's still on his rookie contract.
I agree 100%. So we'll get on. Speaking of Mac Jones right now, we're going to get into Mac's season predictions right here. What we see him on the air, and, I think this is the case for a lot of our stats that we had, Cole. We seem like we are pretty close in numbers, but I'll let you start off for Mac's rookie season.
Yeah, I have him going for 3,100 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. So my interceptions were a little higher than yours just because, I mean, we got some tough defenses we're going to be facing this year, and he's a rookie. He's bound to make a couple mistakes. I think this would be a really solid season from him, honestly. I think, obviously, if he was closer to 6 interceptions and 23 touchdowns, that'd be better. But I think he's going to go for a good amount of yards. I think in the red zone, we're going to utilize our running backs a lot. Jonnu Smith can be used as a chess piece. He can take the ball out of the backfield, do different things. I think we had a lot of good running backs that we can use. Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris, James White out of the backfield as a pass catcher. So I think there's a lot of different ways that this team can score the ball, and I don't necessarily think that it's all going to be him. You saw in the preseason how often he threw for, 1 touchdown. Granted, could have been like 3 or 4 if a few different balls were caught, but I think this team's going to score the ball running a lot. So that's what we saw in the preseason. We saw a lot of rushing touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson obviously had 6, 7, something like that. Yep. So that's kind of what I expect, touchdown to yards interception ratio.
Yeah, I kind of got my stats going off of rookie quarterbacks last year, and I'm not, taking him off of, just basing him off of stats. But Joe Burrow threw for almost 2,700 yards, and he played in 10 games. And I think that Mac Jones, if he plays in all 17 games, you added a game in here, 2,900 might even be low. Now, I don't want to come out and shoot for the stars and say 3,800 or something. So 2,900, because I totally agree with you. I think that he's going to be a game manager, game controller in year one, where they're going to run the ball a lot. They have a killer offensive line. Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson. And even if he does throw very high, percentage-wise accuracy, I don't know how many times he's going to get to throw the ball just because of that running game. He might be throwing dink and dunks to the tight ends because we're going to be in a lot of 12 personnel. Or he might be hitting Jacoby Myers, who we all know probably isn't known for his super deep routes. And then occasionally he's going to have Nelson Aguilar over the top. James White, J.J. Taylor, they're both, pass catchers either behind the line of scrimmage or, a couple yards past it. So I don't know what his yards per passing is going to look like in that sense. But I think that the right around 3,000 yards is very doable for him. 23 touchdowns. We're pretty close on that. Like you mentioned, he's going to get touchdowns. Like, this isn't going to be a run dominant team. Mac Jones, the running game is only going to set up play action for him. And then I think that his 6 interceptions right there, like you mentioned, there's good defenses we play. He might have a game where he throws 2, and it's probably going to suck to see as a Patriots fan, and you're going to worry because he's a rookie quarterback. But the one thing Mac Jones didn't do a ton of at Alabama was turn the ball over. And I think he's going to hold on to it. I think he's going to, be smart with it. Bill and Josh are going to be smart with it. Mac's going to make the right reads, 85, 90% of the time. And I don't know if he's going to have many passes that he's going to throw that are just like, yeah, that should have been picked. Maybe there's just going to be good plays on balls because, like you mentioned, there's great defenses they're playing. Buffalo, great secondary. We mentioned Derwin James for the Chargers. Good secondary. They're playing guys. Cleveland, good defense. He might have to throw one sooner than he liked because of the pass rush in Cleveland. Yeah, so,
Colts,
I'm not burying my head in the sand. Yeah, Colts, exactly. They got Julian Blackmon. They got multiple corners. They have Darius Leonard who can cause pressure. Maybe they shut down the run game. They have to throw it a little more in that Colts game. So,
Bucks,
yeah,
Panthers, there's a lot of good defenses on the schedule.
For sure. I'm not burying my head in the sand and saying he's not going to throw. He's going to throw 2 picks all year. I just think that Mac Jones is very good at limiting his mistakes.
I agree. And I think that's going to be a huge point of emphasis the entire year, especially as a rookie quarterback. I think that's why I do think this team's going to be not as heavily run as last year, but I do think we're going to be a heavy running team just to set up the play action for them. And just because with these tough defenses, if you can establish the run, it sets up play action. Like you said, they can't, they have to start crowding the line of scrimmage a little bit, opens up more passing lanes, makes things easier on the quarterback. So I think they're going to do everything they can to make things easy on Mac and let him have this successful year and limit turnovers. And I just think this would be a great year for him if this is around what his stats are. I think Justin Herbert last year had like 31 touchdowns or something like that, and it broke the rookie record. So
Yeah.
I don't think he'll quite be at that range. That was a phenomenal season by Herbert, and I think he's just going to continue to get better. He's a very talented kid. But yeah, I think we both have pretty realistic and solid expectations for Mac this year. I don't think he'll turn the ball over a lot, but there's some great defenses. It's a different league. It's the NFL. It's not college anymore. So guys make plays, and you also got to account for balls get tipped in the air. We saw it in preseason a little bit with some teams. We saw it last year. Seahawks. Russell Wilson threw it to Greg Olsen, hit it right in the hands. McCourty picked it off, gets a touchdown. So stuff like that happens. It's not all interceptions are on the quarterback. So I tried to account for that a little bit. And as for my yards, I gave him a little more than you. I just assumed because I thought we added a lot of guys that create after the catch. Jonnu, great after the catch. So you never know when. I mean, last year he turned 5-yard catch into a 80-yard touchdown. So you never know when stuff like that happens. So I think we got a lot more talent on the offensive side of the ball where different guys can make plays and make things happen.
I mean, yeah, I definitely think I'm on the lower end of his yardage. I don't know, maybe playing it safe, maybe trying to not sound biased, but if he were to throw for 3,100 yards in 17 games, that's 182 yards a game. And I think that is low for Mac's potential. So we could easily see 220, even 200 a game. He might have a couple games where he just tears them apart and throws for 300 or something. So yeah, I think 2,900 is a little on the lower end of my yards. I wouldn't bet any lower than 2,900. And I definitely bet higher, maybe 3,600 being kind of the max if it's a great year. But I was going to read off a stat. So New England was the second highest run percentage last year. They 53% of their running plays, or 53% of their plays were runs last year.
Who was first? The Ravens.
The Ravens at 57%. So I don't know how close. I would assume with the offensive line and the running game and just the fact that we have two tight ends, we're going to be in a lot of that personnel. We can run the ball and enforce our will and taking pressure off of Mac Jones. That will be around that 49-50% range. You got to count Cam Newton probably took a lot of carries last year also. That's adding to that running percentage, and you're not going to do that with Mac Jones. So that percentage is going to drop a little bit. And so those numbers, yardage numbers and touchdown numbers. And, the sad thing about it is the more you throw the ball, like you mentioned, it's inevitable to throw interceptions as a rookie quarterback. So the more he throws it, the more good, the more bad, the more mistakes we're going to see. And it's just part of the process.
Yeah, and he's a rookie, so things happen. You got to expect some mistakes to occur. He's not going to be perfect. All rookies make mistakes, and I think the thing that makes him so special and that the Patriots have enough confidence to start him week 1 is how he limits those mistakes, like we talked about. But yeah, going back to that running point, I think Cam had like 15 carries alone in that first Miami game. So I mean, that's a good chunk of your plays right there as a quarterback running. It's not even just a running back. So yeah, I think this team's going to be able to do a lot of different things. And I think establishing the run is going to be huge to set Mac up for success with a good offensive line. I think just pounding the rock and giving Mac more opportunities to run play action. It's more effective. Throw the ball down the middle, throw the ball down the field with guys stepping up, biting on the run, and letting our playmakers make plays. So I think it's going to be a fun year to watch. And I do think he could have an even better year than this, but it's you try to just tamper your expectations a little bit because he's a rookie and you really never know what's going to happen with a guy transitioning from college to the NFL, but he looks good so far.
Yeah, Cam had 137 total rushes last year. That was 4.3 a game. So those definitely aren't going to go to Mac Jones on design quarterback runs, at least. Maybe they go to Damian Harris or Ramondre Stevenson. So they might still be up there, but hopefully they just get more offensive plays in general, and that's where the increase in passing percentage comes. But speaking of passing, there's always two sides of the story. Mac Jones has to deliver the ball to good receivers, guys with separation, guys that can get open downfield. So moving into our leading wide receivers, this is for reception yards, I believe, right?
Yep.
So we'll go into reception yards. Cole, take us away with this one.
Yeah, I got Jacoby Myers leading the team in receiving yards. I'm a little bit concerned with Nelson Aguilar, not to any extreme point yet because we haven't even seen him in a real game. But I mean, he was popped up as limited on the injury report this week. First injury report of the year, and he's on it. I assume continued from that ankle injury, that the injury he had during training camp. That kind of he's had a few that made him miss some time. But I'm a little bit concerned if the ankle injury is something that's truly limiting him. He's got to be a guy who takes the top off a defense. He's a burner. So if your ankle's bad, you can't be a burner. You can't take the top off a defense, make explosive plays, create separation. That's what he does. That's his game. So if he can't do that and he's limited at all with that ankle, and that takes away even a foot of separation for him, that can make a huge difference. So I am a little concerned with that. I think he could be early on if he is injured, still used as a decoy a little bit. And these two tight ends, I think it's going to open up a lot for Jacoby Myers. I was really impressed with him last year. He's been the best receiver all camp. So I'm looking for him to have a big year.
Yeah, and I was going to put Jacoby Myers also. I figured that one of us would hit him at least. So I went with the opposite, put Nelson Aguilar, just because, like you mentioned, he averaged 18.7 yards per catch last year.
Insane.
Massive numbers. And Mac Jones is great with the deep ball if he's healthy, if he's playing. I still think even if he plays, he only played 16 games last year. Or sorry, he only played 11 in 2019 is what I meant to say. And he still was averaging almost 10 yards a catch, which I still think is pretty insane numbers. I'd have to pull up Jacoby Myers. I don't know what Jacoby Myers would be. I'm thinking he's going to be short intermediate route guy. He might average about 6-7. So that's where I'm getting my Nelson Aguilar thing from, is if he's on the field 15, 16 games, I really think with Mac's deep ball accuracy that he's going to be able to, throw Nelson Aguilar open. Cause like you mentioned, and we've mentioned before, is the tight ends are going to demand lots of attention too. And if Jacoby Myers is doing what we expect Jacoby Myers to do, I don't know how you can double team Nelson Aguilar and leave Jacoby Myers one-on-one, either in the slot or just on a linebacker and not having to put like a safety or someone on him.
Yeah, just real quick, and I'll let you continue. Jacoby Myers averaged 12.4 yards per catch last year, which is, I mean, that surprises me as well because he's not really a deep threat. Obviously, he's not the quickest guy, but I mean, with those short intermediate routes, creating after the catch, you create separation. He made some guys look silly last year. And if you can do that and get 2 yards of separation on a guy and catch the ball while you're running, you can create after the catch. So I just think the tight ends, Nelson Aguilar, like I talked about, it's really going to open things up for Jacoby Myers this year to have an even better year than he did last year.
What was Jacoby Myers' receptions and yards last year? Just
59 receptions, 729 yards.
So yeah, and obviously the 18
and he missed like 5 games or something like that.
Yeah. So obviously the 18.7 speaks dividends to Nelson Aguilar. He only had 48 receptions for 896 yards. So yeah, you see the less receptions on the deep ball. And if Jacoby Myers would have played, early in the season, he probably would have passed Nelson Aguilar in receiving yards. So it just depends. I really like the ability of Nelson Aguilar blowing the top off. And I really like what Jacoby Myers can do. I think they're going to complement each other. And I think that both of these guys are in for big years if they both stay healthy. And quite frankly, if Nelson Aguilar's hurt, I think it only hurts Jacoby Myers too. It's going to be more attention going to him. So both of these guys being healthy is going to be key.
I agree. And I don't think Jacoby Myers is going to have as many targets as he did last year. Well, I think so per game, I don't think he'll have as many targets as he did last year just because he was so heavily used as the number one option on this team. Cam had to rely on him quite a bit. There's going to be a lot more people to spread the ball to this year. So he might not have as many catches per game, but I still think he can be a guy who can contribute. And I think he could get even more separation on worse corners. And with the field opened up more, he can create more after the catch and all those different things that he's shown to be good at. So I'm excited to see what he can do this year, but we'll move on to touchdowns. I'll let you start off with who you had leading us in receiving touchdowns this year.
Yeah, I have Hunter Henry, the big, tight end. If I were to go reception yards at the tight end position, I'm giving it to Jonnu Smith because, like you mentioned, his catch and run ability after his make people miss, yards after the catch ability. But Hunter Henry in the red zone, I think he's going to get set up a lot with play action passes. If we get stuffed on first down, if they're in big goal line packages and we just are like, hey, well, let's just release Hunter Henry or someone on a little slip pass. So I legitimately think, and there's a lot of targets to throw to. There's going to be Jacoby Myers. There's going to be James White. I don't think that one guy is going to have double-digit numbers, but I think Hunter Henry is going to be the closest to that double-digit number. I'm going to put him at 8 touchdowns, and that would be the most of his career. Now, he's kind of been injured a lot of his career. The highest he's had, I believe, is 5 or 6. But I think if he plays a full healthy year with Jonnu Smith on the other side of him, with these other guys, and the run game setting up the play action pass, I think that 8 is within the realm of Hunter Henry leading the team.
Yeah, I think both Jonnu and Hunter Henry are going to be probably the favorites for this category, and I almost expect them to be those two to be fighting for that, not fighting, but you know what I mean, fighting for that number one spot of who has more receiving touchdowns this year. Jonnu had a lot. I think he had a solid amount last year. I'll have to check how many, but I kind of went a different route for this one. I went James White just with all he struggled a lot last year. This offense fits. This quarterback fits what he likes to do a lot better than Cam did. Cam wasn't great at screen passes. He didn't put it in the right spot. We saw last year, Rex Burkhead, he had 3 touchdowns alone in that Raiders game, I believe. When he got the ball in the backfield in the red zone area, he made a couple guys miss, scored a touchdown. So I think a lot of eyes are going to be on Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, all these guys that we're talking about, to where I can see James White slipping out of the backfield once in a while and making a catch and scoring a touchdown. So this one's probably a little more under the radar, but I think James White is going to have a bounce back year. So I hope he kind of bounces back and has a good amount of touchdowns and has a solid season. But I think Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are definitely the leaders up there that I was expecting as well to be at the top.
And James White has experience of catching, a lot of touchdowns in 15, 16, 17, 18, he went 4, 5, 3, 7, 5. So he has experience. He's known as a pass catching running back, and he can run the ball too. I don't think they're going to use him a lot, especially with Ramondre Stevenson, emerging as a pretty good back, and Damian Harris kind of having that running back one job. So I look for him to get 85, 90% of his touchdowns from the passing game. So I agree. I think that this James White pick is a sneaky sleeper pick, where, a lot of people probably might not be thinking that off of, he only had 1 reception touchdown last year, but like you mentioned, Cam Newton was not very good at throwing the screen game. And, if you get the ball to James White at the 30 on a screen and you got blockers ahead of him, I'm going to take him making 1 or 2 guys miss. He's, they call him Sweet Feet for a reason. So I like the James White pick too. I like the Hunter Henry pick, and Jonnu Smith is just one more you could throw in there.
And Jonnu last year had 8 receiving touchdowns or 8 touchdowns. So that's definitely a guy that you got to keep on the radar as well. Just like Hunter Henry, you had him going for 8 this year. Jonnu had 8 last year, and just to kind of show the difference in having Cam at quarterback and having Brady at quarterback for James White's statistics, he had 1 receiving touchdown last year, like you said. The year before that, he had 5. The year before that, he had 7, 3, 5, 4. So, that's the lowest he's had in quite a few years. So I expect him to bounce back with a guy like Mac, who's probably, as a rookie, you're probably going to check the ball down more than you're going to try to fit into tight spaces when you're a rookie. You're not looking to make mistakes and not looking to hurt your team. So I think James White, like I said, it could be a sleeper pick at this spot.
For sure. Well, moving on, rushing touchdowns here. This is easy. I don't know anyone else that qualified for this. Like maybe Ramondre Stevenson, maybe, but do you really think he was going to get enough goal line touches over Damian Harris? No.
Yeah.
So this is easy here. I'll let you kind of hit on it and then I'll come in. But Damian Harris is who we both have here at the leading the team in rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, I think this was a pretty easy one. Ramondre Stevenson I considered for a minute, but just Damian Harris last year wasn't really a factor on the goal line because Cam was our best goal line back. Cam is incredible at the goal line, making things happen. And so we also, the offense wasn't really in a goal line position as often as we'd hope. But Cam was always our goal line back last year. So I think Damian Harris is going to get all or close to all of those touches this year in the red zone at the goal line. I think you could see Ramondre Stevenson steal some of those once in a while, but if Damian Harris is healthy and his load on his plate isn't too much, then I think he's going to be eating a lot of these touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't know who else it could be. Like Ramondre Stevenson's going to get a couple. He's going to get goal line work, that's for sure. But I don't know. Damian Harris is going to be a workhorse back for us. He's going to have long touchdowns. He's still going to get goal line work. He's not bad at the goal line. I mean, he still runs hard, and behind that offensive line, you could almost put anyone there and, bet on them getting a yard of knockback and letting Damian Harris or someone walk in from the 1 or 2 yard line. So, yeah, I don't know who else it could be. I mean, I don't think this should be a shock to anyone. I agree. Cam Newton could have been a threat for that just because of how they used him last year on the goal line, and that would limit the amount of carries that a running back position would have at the goal line. But he's obviously not here anymore, so it's got to be Damian Harris.
Yeah, no, I agree. He only had two rushing touchdowns last year, so not much. Cam ate a lot of those, but I think Damian Harris is going to definitely be the workhorse in that red zone area, short yardage. He's going to be the guy. Maybe we'll see Mac have a couple QB sneaks, but other than that, I think Damian Harris is definitely going to be the guy that leads in that category. But we'll move on to the next one. Leader in sacks. I'll let you start this one off.
So I almost put Kyle Van Noy, and I know that might not be the easy one, but Kyle Van Noy has been very, very consistent for New England, and I think him coming back to New England, he's not going to be the guy that they're going to double team. They're going to double team Matt Judon. They're going to double team other guys before they get to Kyle Van Noy. So I was so close to putting Van Noy, but the explosion and the second year leap and stuff we're seeing from Josh Uche was just too much. Like we both put him for a reason. We have high expectations for him. And I'm looking forward to him. I legitimately think he could get 9-10 sacks. I think 9 would be a good number for him to hit. 10 would be fantastic. I don't know if he hits that, but I don't think early on in the season, at least, teams are going to double team him either. I think that a lot of the times it's going to be Van Noy, it's going to be Uche. Those guys are going to be, one-on-one off the edge, and Uche with his speed. I don't know many guys in the league that can block him. So I went with Uche. There was, Van Noy was in consideration. Judon's going to be up there. But I just got high expectations for Uche.
I agree. And I think that he's just only going to benefit from all the guys that we have, all the pieces we have around him. He's going to be the beneficiary of that because now he's got talented players around him. Matt Judon is, last year he had 6 sacks. Year before that, 9.5, 7, 8, 4. He's a guy who can rush the passer at an elite level as well. He's only getting better and better. And as he improves, teams are going to be paying more attention to him. I think he's going to see a lot of double teams if he's dominating the game. He could see a lot of double teams, and that's just going to open up more space for guys like Josh Uche on the other side. Chase Winovich will probably have a solid amount if he's in there. I don't know how much time he'll see with all the guys we have, honestly. The only reason I didn't really consider Van Noy as much is because I'm not really sure what his role is going to be.
Yeah.
We knew what that was when he was with us for the Super Bowls, all that stuff. He was more that edge player, but it seems like he's been filling in more at middle linebacker next to Donta Hightower. So I don't really know which way he's going to be playing. Hightower also is a guy who can rush the passer at an elite level. He can create some havoc in the backfield. So, we got a ton of guys who are good candidates for this list. If Van Noy ends up playing on the edge like he was with us in the past, I think he's a great pick. So I just think overall, Uche, the explosion he's had so far, his ability to rush the passer at an elite level, he can just fly into the backfield, beat you speed rush. He can beat you power rush a little bit as well. And as he learns from these guys around him, and as teams pay more attention to Judon and all these different guys, it's just going to open up more opportunities for him. So I agree. I think Josh Uche is the right pick here.
Yeah, and I was thinking the same thing about where is he going to play, or where are they going to use Kyle Van Noy. And I think he's just kind of a plug and play guy. He's going to be on the field, but it's how they use him and at what point in the game and what scheme. So I think he has a lot of potential to play multiple positions. It's just which one is he playing the most. In the preseason, he played in the box 36 times. He played on the defensive line 19 times, and most of those 19 times he's lining up outside of the tackle, obviously. So he's definitely lining up in the box, off the ball more than what he was when he was first here. So that's a good point, for Patriots fans to look at. He still can rush the passer from there, but I think that where he would be most effective is off the edge, outside the tackles, working either games with another defensive lineman or just being able to use his pass rush move. So that's another reason Kyle Van Noy, maybe isn't on the list for me. Is just, I think he has a different role now, like you mentioned, in this defense with the addition of Judon, with Uche, stepping up, with the drafting of Ronnie Perkins, Chase Winovich. Who knows how much they play, but there's other guys that we have there that probably can do the job better than he can.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. We'll move on to the interception predictions. I'll let you start this one as well.
Yeah, so this one was tough for me. J.C. Jackson obviously led the league last year, I'm pretty sure, or he was tied for the league lead. Maybe he took
second right behind Howard, right?
Yeah, Xavier Howard. So
yeah.
J.C. Jackson's going to be up there. He's going to be cornerback 1, and for at least 6 weeks. And who knows what happens if Gilmore comes back. So J.C. Jackson was in there. I had Adrian Phillips. I just think he's going to be, asked to guard tight ends a lot. And for me, it was between Phillips and Duggar, just to be a little different. But I think Phillips
JC's an easy pick. I went with the easy pick, but
which is good. It's safe. Like, I just wanted to go Adrian Phillips. He's going to be in coverage a lot. He's going to play in the box. We saw him have a great read in zone, or a great interception in zone coverage last year against the Chargers, was it? When it was right before the half or something. I forget exactly who it was.
He had one in the middle of the field against Miami week 1. Miami was driving the ball down the field right before the half, and he got one there. I don't know which one you're talking about exactly, but
yeah, that might have been it. But I think he's good in man and zone. They're going to disguise him well. I think he's a good cover guy. I think he has a little bit better ball skills as of right now, just because of experience in the league, than Kyle Duggar does. So tracking down balls in the air, being closer to receivers, or being closer to tight ends, receivers, I think he's going to be there. So I went with kind of, a sleeper, as we said before, Adrian Phillips here. I think that he could get there. And I don't know if J.C. Jackson gets 7 again, or did he get 8 last year? It was either 7.
He might have had 9.
He was up there. So I don't think
9 interceptions last year.
See, I don't. It's hard to, like, that's like a phenomenal year. It's hard to predict that.
5 the year before, 3 the year before that.
And he could come back down, and 6 interceptions. I mean, an interception every 2 games is a good number. So if J.C. Jackson comes back down to that, I think Adrian Phillips could be right there also. He's I think he's going to be a staple in this defense also.
And there's an added game this year. So I think, that just gives you more opportunities for interceptions. But I don't think JC will have 9 this year, especially as a cornerback 1 for 6 games. I'm a little nervous. I think it's a prove it year for him. I know he wants to chase the bag, but I hope he doesn't just try to ball hawk. And we saw that really hurt him a couple times. That Bills game late in the season, he played the ball versus Diggs. He played it aggressive, as if the quarterback threw it where he wanted it to go, he would have picked it off. But the quarterback, Josh Allen, threw it right over his head, and he wasn't in a good position because he was playing the ball to pick it off, and threw it right over him. Stephon Diggs scored a touchdown. So I hope we don't see things like that. As a cornerback 1, he's got to play more conservative. And obviously you want to be aggressive as a corner, but you got to be a little bit more conservative, not to let up those big throws, big touchdowns, deep balls just to get an interception. If you knock the ball down, incompletions are great. So I think he'll have less than 9 for sure, but I think he could be right around that 5 to 7 range if he has a solid year again once Gilmore comes back. Being that cornerback 2, I think that's a good spot for him to really feast on some interceptions. But the more he gets picks every year, the less people are going to target him. So as a cornerback 2, once he falls back into that role, he could regress in that interception category. But yeah, the Adrian Phillips pick is kind of like the James White pick that I made of this category.
And we want to see Adrian Phillips do good. I'm looking at where he lined up in the preseason, lined up 14 times. And so 54 total snaps in the preseason. He was in the box, kind of at linebacker depth 14 times, slot corner 10 times, free safety 19 times, and then actual wide corner 3 times. And without Stephon Gilmore, the first 6 games, you got to think, well, is he going to line up a little bit more at slot corner? He had he had 10 of his 54 reps there. Is he going to line up in the box? They're going to move him around places. I think he's going to be, the way he gets interceptions is going to be, more creative and more likely than, say JC Jackson. He's going to have to, like you mentioned, get a tip ball pass. He's going to have to jump a slant. There's limited as a cornerback 1 ways you can get it. And who knows how many times people throw to JC Jackson this year. I mean, obviously, after having 9 picks last year, there's going to be teams that are like, okay, well, this guy proved himself. Like, he can catch the ball, he can guard, he can defend in space. So who knows how many times he actually gets thrown at, throughout the first 6 games, and then even when Gilmore comes back. So I went with that Phillips pick. I just thought that, where he's moving around more, he's going to have a little bit more opportunity at some weird tip balls, maybe bad reads by the quarterback.
And I think Phillips was great in the in training camp, preseason, all that stuff. He did awesome covering tight ends, all that different stuff. So I think he could have a great year as well. He's a super talented guy. I think he's quite an underrated player. He was one of the best players for us on defense last year, and
Yeah.
I went under the radar. And they had him lining up at linebacker. I mean, he's a guy that size isn't really fit to play linebacker as much as he is to play safety and guard, tight end, stuff like that. But I mean, he can do a lot of different things. He's a versatile player. I think his man coverage ability, his coverage ability in general is a lot better than Duggar's right now. But that's just kind of more experience. And Duggar is an athletic guy, so he can fly around as well. Once he starts to refine his technique, I think he's going to be just fine in coverage. But I think Adrian Phillips could have a great year as well this year. I'm looking for him to do well.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's get to it. The season opener. Those are our full season predictions, stat predictions, record predictions, everything. But let's get into the season opener against Miami. Cole, you're going to the game. When do you leave? You getting excited?
I am extremely excited. Waking up early. Well, not super early, but Sunday morning, driving up there, staying at the hotel, and I'm extremely excited. Never been to a game before, so it's gonna be huge. Gonna go to all the places around there, the Pro Shop, Hall of Fame, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm extremely excited, and seeing Mac Jones's first game, all these different pieces we added, is gonna be a blast.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been back to 2 games, an AFC Championship game and another one. There's nothing like it. And the first time Patriots fans are going to be back in the stands, other than preseason, but for a regular season game, Mac Jones, home opener, career opener, every opener. It's Mac Jones' time in New England. So this is fun. We'll get into talking about it. But let's jump in, talk about our offensive keys to the game. Cole, this is kind of your graphic, so I'll let you talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, so this is more on the offensive side of the ball, like you said, but establishing the run game, winning in the trenches. I think it's going to be huge. Nothing is better for a quarterback than having a good offensive line and a good run game. If Damian Harris can just pound the rock and have success, continue. He had 5 yards per carry last year. If he can average that this game or more, I mean, that's going to be huge. It's going to make the defense have to step up in the box more, create more opportunities, one-on-ones for the wide receivers, tight ends, all that stuff. So if you can run the ball well and win in the trenches, it's going to be great. Giving Mac a clean pocket to step up in. Mac is going to probably have a lot of pressure on him this game. So if you can give him a clean pocket, reduce the pressure, run the ball, play action is going to be more effective. I think all those things are going to be huge. So I think another thing, they're going to be blitzing a lot, like I just said. If they are sending heavy pressure and you get Aguilar down the field one-on-one, no safeties, anything like that, you throw him up one, he catches one, you make 1 or 2 deep ball plays early in the game with them sending heavy pressure at a rookie, they're going to have to back off a little bit. And so I think if you can hit 1 or 2 of those early in the game while establishing the run, doing that stuff, maybe on a play action, different stuff like that, I think those are going to be some keys offensively. What do you have as some important things for offensive side of the ball for this game?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, establishing the run game, making life easier on Mac is something that I have up there. The other thing that I have is going along with keeping a clean pocket, but not turning the ball over. The last thing New England fans and New England wants to see is Mac come out and throw 2 interceptions and maybe have a fumble because someone gets a strip sack. So I want to continue to see that pocket awareness. I want to continue to see Mac getting it out on time. And then, getting it out on time and stuff ties into receivers getting open. We didn't see a lot of separation last year outside of Jacoby Myers by receivers. I want to see, Nelson Aguilar saying he's healthy, get open downfield. I want to see, play action passes get set up and there be wide open guys that Mac Jones can dump the ball off to, and Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith. So there's a lot of things there. I think that it all for me comes down to the trenches. Everything comes down to who wins the battle up front, both offensively and defensively. And we all know how good this Patriots defensive line has been made out to, or offensive line has been made out to be. And I got to see it. I got to see them protect their rookie quarterback, take pressure off of him, help him, get comfortable in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. What you said, Gabe Pats. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. We appreciate all the support from the listeners. And yes, I agree with you. It is time to call the Nelson Aguilar experiment a failure in New England. It's over already. We don't need to see him play. I agree with you there.
I think we should package him in to kill Harry for
Michael Thomas, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh yeah, Michael Thomas. Yeah. That's better. Whoever.
No, but yeah, Gabe's the best. He's hilarious. We've talked about him a couple times on the podcast before, I believe. But yeah, getting back to the keys to the game and stuff. I agree with everything you said, and creating easy throws for the quarterback. Those wide receivers creating separation, different stuff like that. You can keep a clean pocket for him, make some easy throws for him. Jonnu, create after the catch. Kendrick Bourne, create after the catch. Jacoby Myers, all these different guys. I think there's a lot of different things that this offense can do to make it life easier on Mac Jones this game. It's a really tough defense, tough scheme to go up against. Bill knows about what Flores is going to do because Flores came from this tree, this system. So I think Mac's going to be well prepared, but it's week one. You don't have much tape on what they're going to do this year. Their team's different this year than it was last year, but they have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but just running the ball, like I said, setting up play action, protecting the ball and Mac. Those are all big things that are going to be key to this game if the Patriots want to have success.
For sure. And this is both an offensive and defensive, kind of thing. And we always talk about this up where I coach at and stuff, but winning the turnover margin. And I know I talked about turnovers, but a turnover might happen. Mac Jones might throw an interception. We might fumble. But if we turn the ball over one time, our defense has to get 2. If we turn it over twice, our defense has to get 3. If our offense doesn't turn it over once, that means that we still have to get 1 or 2. You can't just tie. We got to create turnovers too. We'll talk about this in the defensive game, but it's winning the turnover margin. And that's both a stat. If our defense can only force 1 turnover, that means our offense can't turn it over, can't put the ball on the ground, can't throw a pick. So that's something we talk about a lot. There is winning that turnover margin. I think we did a study, and I think for us in the last 5 years, and this could be different for every team, but it stayed true, is like for the last 5 years, I think 87.5 or maybe 88, if you want to round up, % of the times we win the turnover margin, we win the game. And I got to say that number is close for almost every team. If you're turning the ball over three more times than your opponent, you're giving them that many more possessions. At this level of football in the NFL, guys are good. 3 extra possessions is huge. So you can't be doing that. You got to win the turnover margin. That's what I'm going to say, other than establishing the trenches, is going to be the number 1 key on offense and defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard enough to win games in the NFL without turning the ball over, but when you turn the ball over, you're just handing the other team opportunities to score, and you're shooting yourself in the foot every time you turn the ball over. That's why those numbers are so high for percentage of wins when you win the turnover battles, because you're having more opportunities to score than they are. It's simple math. If you get 10 chances with the ball to score and they get 7, you have an advantage there. You got more opportunities. Even if you're a worse team, if you win the turnover battle 3-0, that gives you 3 more opportunities to pull out the victory as the underdog. So turnovers are huge, especially as a rookie. I think it's going to be, ingrained into his head that he's got to protect the football. But stuff happens. You see, it is practice, but against the Giants, there was a coverage he hadn't seen before, and he threw a ball to Jonnu, thought he had plenty of time, and the safety rotated, the cornerback rotated and picked off the ball. And so stuff happens. You know what I mean? He's a rookie. He hasn't seen everything before. With the lack of tape, like I just said, you don't know what the Dolphins are going to bring. You have an expectation, but you're going to have to make changes on the fly. There's probably going to be coverages Mac's never seen before. There's going to be blitzes, different things like that he might not recognize, might get pressure on him early. He gets hit, tries to throw a ball and fumbles, whatever. Stuff happens. So as a rookie, you just want to really protect the football. As a team in general, you want to protect the football, and that's key to winning any game.
Yeah, and with turnovers comes short field position. You throw a pick at the 50-yard line, they only have to go 50 yards instead of giving it to them at the 25, or possibly giving it to them deep inside their own territory or field position, where we have Jake Bailey, who's a great punter, and he can pin them in inside the 10. So field position also comes into play massively when you're putting your defense in bad situations because of turnovers that you created on offense. It's tough to win also that way. So, but speaking of defense, unless you have any more, do you have any more offensive keys of the game?
No, nope. That's it for me, offensive wise.
Perfect. So we'll go to defensive keys of the game. We kind of hit on some of them, but Cole, we'll let you start off.
Yeah. So first off, getting pressure on Tua early and often. We saw last year in the red zone when we got pressure on him, he got hit, threw the ball, picked off by JC Jackson, stuff like that. I mean, instantly makes it harder for a rookie quarterback. If he's got pressure on him all day, it's going to be tough for him to succeed. His pocket movement is great. So if he has a pocket to move around in, which I'm going to pull this up real quick, if he has a pocket to move around in, he has success. So we'll show this real quick. Just kind of shows his pocket movement a little bit. Steps up, makes a nice throw. Getting pressure on him throughout the game is just going to be huge, especially with this offensive line. Our defensive line is better than their offensive line. We should be able to create pressure on Tua. But I mean, you see the success he has. Looking around, steps up in the pocket. Boom! Look at the pocket he has around him. If that's how much time he has to throw, especially with Gilmore out, there's going to be problems. So I think getting pressure on him early and then stopping the run, forcing them to be one-dimensional. Last year we struggled immensely at stopping the run. It was just embarrassing to watch, honestly, how bad we were getting pummeled by the Dolphins running the ball, and they were missing so many pieces. I mean, they were missing Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki. They didn't have Myles Gaskins. It was Savon, Ahmed was their starting running back, which he had a good year, but yeah, it was bad. The Dolphins struggled running the football game to game, and they dominated us. I will say, obviously, we added a lot of pieces. Juwan Bentley got injured early in that game, which he was one of our only guys that was like decent at stopping the run in that front seven. But it was tough. So if you can stop the run and get pressure on the quarterback, that's going to make things tremendously hard for Tua, and that would really increase our chances of winning this football game.
For sure. And for me, it comes down, and like you mentioned, making them one-dimensional. It's winning. It's not letting them outrush us. So in the game that we lost last year, we gave up 250 rushing yards. Like you mentioned, Ahmed had 122 of those. And then Matt Breida, who, kind of a veteran, older guy in the league, 86. We had 117 rushing yards. In game one that we won, we were able to rush for 217 yards. Cam Newton had 75 of those, 2 touchdowns. Sony Michel, 37, a touchdown. Burke had 32, and they rushed for 87. So I really do think also making them one-dimensional, but we got to win the running game. Whether we make them one-dimensional because Tua can't pass or because the run game isn't going, I think outrushing them, and that goes back to the offensive strategy, is winning in the trenches. This defensive line, we built it up. We signed guys. We drafted Christian Barmore. We signed Gottschall from Miami. We signed Judon. We bring back Hightower. The front seven cannot get pummeled like they did last year. And then speaking secondary wise, it's who steps up at cornerback 2 for us. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Jalen Mills? Is it going to be Jonathan Jones? Is it going to be, Jawan Williams? Who is going to be that cornerback number 2 for us? And how competent is he come week 1? Is he ready? Does he look bad? Is that going to be a weakness for 6 weeks and possibly, be a problem and an issue for us in some of these big time games that we're going to play before Stephon Gilmore hopefully comes back? So those are the 2 for me, both in the front 7 and in the secondary.
And speaking of Gottschall, today he had a quote, "Stop the run to have some fun." So, I mean, that's what you love to see from a mentality standpoint. He said, "Yeah, you can't go out and have fun with the other guys until you stop the run. You stop the run on 1st and 2nd down. You create passing opportunities on 3rd down to where your guys can pin their ears back and go rush the passer." So having a mentality like that is great. Adding a guy like him, we got him, Lawrence Guy, Dietrich Wise, Judon, who's great at setting the edge, stopping the run. We got a lot of different guys. Barmore struggled a little bit with that in college, but looks solid so far stopping the run in the limited time we've seen him. So, yeah, we got a lot of guys that Hightower's back. He's huge in stopping the run. He's great at that, plugging holes, shooting the gap, all that different stuff. So we got a lot more talented. We have a much more talented group that should be able to stop the run a lot better this year. So I think that aspect should be much better. But we didn't get a lot of pressure on Tua last year. We let them run all over us. It was an ugly game. They didn't have some of their best pieces, like we mentioned, and they beat us 22-12, I believe. So
Yep.
still was a relatively close game. We still had a chance to win that game, but just some key mistakes. It really, I mean, just bogs you down. Turnovers, stuff like that, not capitalizing on things, letting them run all over you. If you can't stop the run at all, then the other team can control the entire game. They can run the clock down whenever they want. They can just keep pounding the rock, and you can't do anything about it if you can't stop the run. So I think that's going to be a huge key, stopping the run and running the football for us.
Yeah, the magic number, speaking from an offensive thing, is the magic number on offense is 4. Oh, wrong way. 4 yards a play gets you a first down every, if you're averaging 4 yards a play. So like you mentioned, stopping them on what, is quote unquote control downs, 1st and 10, you pretty much have a lot of the playbook open to you. You can take a shot, you're going to get 2nd and 10. Once that offense gets 4 yards on first down, they're probably going to take a shot on 2nd down because they feel comfortable. But if you force them into 3rd and 9s, 3rd and 10s, maybe get a TFL, a sack on one of those 1st or 2nd downs, the playbook is almost cut in half. They only have few plays. And at that point, especially if they're in field goal range or something, their mentality is just get half of it back. So, it's a manageable punt, it's a manageable field goal or something like that. So getting them in 3rd and longs is going to be huge too, where they have to cut down half that playbook. Tua's still a young quarterback, coming in and out of games last year. I don't know how much experience he actually was able to get and what his confidence level is going to be at come week 1 against a very tough New England team. So getting them in 3rd and longs and not letting them be comfortable on those 3rd down calls that they're going to have.
Yeah, I mean, I lost my train of thought there. Tua definitely, I mean, he was getting pulled in and out of games last year, like you said. Ryan Fitzpatrick was going in. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does as the guy coming down to the wire. He has a lot of experience going back to this offseason, all that stuff. He's got a lot more experience in the playbook, knows the playbook better, understands protections, all that stuff better. So I expect him to be a much better player. But going back to the point you were saying and going back to kind of the one-dimensional aspect is you get him into 3rd and long, they're very one-dimensional. All they can do to get that first down is basically throw the football. And if they run it, okay, you can stop them. Even if you're playing the pass heavily, you can run up and you can stop them before they get 9 yards running the football usually. So it definitely makes the team one-dimensional. Guys can pin their ears back, go rush the passer and make different plays. But yeah, if you can do that and make a team one-dimensional, keep them in 3rd and longs throughout the whole game by stopping the run, that just makes it extremely hard for the other team to convert on 3rd down.
For sure. All right. Well, players of the game now, getting into it, both offense and defense. We have the same defensive player, so let's just start there and kind of hit on that, and then we'll move to the offensive guy. But new addition, Matt Judon for us. We both see having a big game, continuing his big training camp and preseason he's had. So what do you look for from Matt Judon?
I think going back to kind of my keys of the game, if they want to have success, Judon has to have a good game because getting pressure on Tua, setting the edge, all that stuff. Their offensive line, I think Austin Jackson, right, is on the COVID list currently. He may or may not be back Sunday. My assumption is he will be back, but you never know because he's going to have 2 negative tests in a row, 24 hours apart, to be able to play Sunday. But that offensive line in Miami is not great. So compared to some of the offensive lines that Judon went up against in training camp and in preseason training camp, the Eagles' offensive line, the Giants have a solid offensive line. This offensive line should be a piece of cake, especially compared to the Patriots' offensive line that he goes up against every day. So I think Judon needs to have a great game, stopping the run, rushing the passer, getting in the backfield, creating havoc, and creating opportunities. If he gets double teamed, okay, that means Judon, Christian Barmore, these guys can rush the passer from different angles and have one-on-one easier matchups. So I think Judon is hopefully going to have a huge game because that's just going to, if he has a big game, I think we have a much better chance of winning this football game.
Yeah, he can have 2 sacks right here in this game alone, start off the season strong, continue what he's been doing. I'm getting to Tua. The big thing is, too, is I think Judon's a pretty big athletic guy. Tua's going to scramble. If we get to him, he's not going to go down easy. He's not, going to, I love Tom Brady, but Tom Brady's not the most mobile guy outside of the pocket. Now he can step up and avoid a pass rush, but if you're flushing him to one way or the other, he gets a little limited. So I think Tua does that well. He can scramble left or right. He can get rid of the ball. He can step up. You showed that video. And so I think that Judon's going to be a good, complement to that where he can take away that. He can maybe chase him down. maybe serve as not such a spy player, but if he does start to scramble, read out of his pass rush lanes and get to where Tua's going. So I agree. Matt Judon's going to be big here. And it goes, hand in hand with the keys that we have just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll switch over to the offensive side of the ball a little bit. This is heavily related to my offensive keys as well. Damian Harris. I think he's going to have a big game. If he has a big game, I think this skyrockets our chances because they're going to have to play the run more heavily. It's going to open up more things for the offense on the passing side of the ball, passing side of the offense. And that just creates easier throws, easier opportunities, easier matchups for all our guys, the tight ends, Jonnu, Hunter Henry, Aguilar, Bourne, Myers. All those guys are going to have easier matchups when there's more guys set in the box to stop the run, less safeties over the top, stuff like that. And if Damian Harris can continually pound the rock and then we can set up play action, hard play action, 15, 20-yard ball down the field, it's going to mix up the defense a lot, and they're going to have some problems with a tough defense. Establishing the run is going to be huge, and I think Damian Harris needs to have a big game.
Yeah, I really like the Damian Harris pick because they're going to rely on him heavily to get the game going, and depending on how we start, and if the run game's working, they're going to make New England's going to make Miami stop us. The reason I have Jonnu Smith here is, like you mentioned, I think the run game gets going. I think that Jonnu Smith is the beneficiary of a great run game where we're going to be able to throw some play action passes to him, and he's going to be able to make people miss, get one-on-one coverage with a linebacker that he's probably faster than. And he's going to be able to have some good, yards after the reception. So I'm looking for Jonnu Smith here. I'm hoping he gets a touchdown too. If I had to throw a stat line out there, I'm going to go 6 catches, 74 yards, and a touchdown here. I think that he's going to have, a good day on the ground or in the air because I don't know. Like you mentioned, Nelson Aguilar is limited. Who knows how many deep shots we're going to take? Jacoby Myers is going to get his. We'll see how Kendrick Bourne looks when he comes out. And then we're probably going to get a lot of passes to the tight ends and the running backs to get Mac Jones comfortable early and often. And I don't see anyone better than Jonnu Smith to get it to, who's so athletic, who's, so versatile where you line him up at in your offense. You really can split him out wide, run, a good amount of the route tree. He's big, he's fast, he's physical. He can do a lot in the passing game. I think that, he's going to be a beneficiary of a great run game that we have going.
Yeah, I love that pick as well. I think Jonnu having a big game would be great. And I think that definitely increase our chances of winning because, having a guy, just Jonnu in general on the team, having a guy that can do so many different things and create different looks, run different routes, be a guy who can come out of the backfield. He's a great player to have on the team. Having a guy with such versatility on the offensive side of the ball really opens up things and opens up your playbook. So, yeah, I think Harris running the ball, having a good game, Jonnu having a good game. I think both these guys could honestly have really solid games. But, yeah, I think our offensive line needs to have a big game. We need to be able to the Dolphins defense is great in general, but the defensive line is really, really solid for the Dolphins. They have a couple good linebackers, Baker, and their secondary is tremendous. So one thing though, Nelson Aguilar last year, he torched the Dolphins. He had that long catch where he basically mossed Byron Jones and then juked a couple guys out and scored a long touchdown to put the Raiders up late in the game. So he had a couple of big catches that game. He did really well. So hopefully they are paying solid attention to him, even if he is hurt. If they're paying a lot of attention to him, opens up things for everybody. Opens up, like I said, the tight ends, Jacoby Myers, opens up the run game. So I think there's a lot of guys that if Aguilar hopefully is healthy and 100% ready to go for week 1, I think him being healthy and creating separation constantly is going to be big. I think it's going to be tough for Mac to say, okay, I see Aguilar deep down the field. I'm going to throw this as a rookie against a really great defense and some looks you haven't really seen before, possibly. I think it's going to be tough for him to hit that. So I don't know how aggressively they'll play Aguilar, but if they don't play him that aggressively, take a couple deep shots, give him a chance because he's made some big plays in the past, especially against this team.
For sure. And we've seen him make, some pretty good contested catches, some good deep ball routes in training camp, both from Mac and from Cam. So he's definitely, he has the ability, and it wouldn't surprise me if they take a couple shots with Mac. I don't think it's going to be their whole game plan, but with his accuracy and, Nelson Aguilar's ability to get open down the field. I think that there's going to be a couple shots that are taken, and if they connect on them, great. Now Miami has to think of one more thing. If not, doesn't really hurt. You probably run them on first or second and short, and then you go and you try to convert. So yeah, we'll see how that works out. But let's get into our full game predictions here. We have Mac's stat line here, and then we'll get into our score predictions. But I'll let you start off with your stat line for Mac.
Yeah, I have him going 20 for 26, 176 yards, a touchdown, and one pick. I think if he throws no picks, we got a solid chance of winning this football game. But I think even one pick, I think our defense hopefully can create a turnover and at least even out that turnover battle. But his first NFL game going up against one of the best secondaries in football and just one of the best defenses in football in general. This defense is really, really solid with a great coaching staff. I think they're going to mix it up, spin the dial on him quite a bit, and he's bound to make a mistake here or there. So I have him. That's why I have one interception for him. But 176 yards, not anything crazy. 20 for 26. I would have him. I mean, that's pretty solid completion wise. It honestly was really hard to pick this just because we really don't have any of the bases off of, and he's never played before. We have no idea what this offense is going to look like. So it's pretty tough, but that's what I set my predictions at.
Yeah, and I think that ours are very close for a reason. I don't think they're going to need him to air it out 30 times this game because we've mentioned it. The run game is going to be there. And then, kind of the lower number of yardages because I think that he's going to be throwing a lot of short passes. They're going to get him comfortable. And who knows how many yards after the catches come from that and how many deep balls he's able to throw. So for me, the 2 touchdowns comes. I already mentioned one to Jonnu. The other one's probably, if I had to guess, I'm going to say it's going to be passing touchdown wise. It's going to be to James White. I think that they're going to get those 2 guys the ball in space and get it where Mac, doesn't have to do much. He just has to throw the ball accurately and throw it on time, and they're going to let them make the plays. So those are where my 2 touchdowns come from. I just, like I mentioned, I think he limits his turnovers. I think he does that very well. And it's not going to surprise me if he throws an interception because of how well these 2 teams are with each other, how well, Brian Flores is with New England with their system, and, Mac just being a rookie, quite frankly. So it won't surprise me. I don't think this is the game for him. I really do think he comes out and has a very strong performance. And for me, if he doesn't throw a pick, that's, number one for me. Like, he can have 1 touchdown and no picks, or maybe even no touchdowns and no picks, as long as we win and it's not just a horrible game by him. But if he's not turning the ball over, that's a big plus for me, especially week 1.
Yeah, and kind of my yards I had a little lower as well. Just and it's basically the same point you said, is just I think we're going to be running the ball a lot, and if we have success, if Damian Harris is having success, I think it's going to be huge for us, and I don't think he's going to need to throw for 1,000,000 yards. So especially against the secondary, Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Eric Rowe, Javon Holland, and they added Jason McCourty as well. They got a lot of talented guys in that secondary where I don't think we're going to be getting too many deep passes on them unless they're just sending heavy pressure, zero blitzes, all that stuff, and we throw a couple up there. But yeah, I think it's a solid stat line for Mac. I hope he doesn't have any interceptions because I think he is going to try to protect the ball. I think they're going to really try to make some really easy throws for him where Jonnu can create after the catch. Jacoby Myers getting him open in space. Watching the game last year, Cam had some really easy throws. I mean, there were some tough ones, obviously, but Jacoby Myers made Xavier Howard look silly a couple times as well. I mean, I've been really impressed with just even going back and watching some film from last year. He was really great. His route running and the ability to create space with his lack of speed is really, really impressive. It's Julian Edelman-esque. Edelman's not the fastest guy, but he knows he's a route technician. I mean, he creates separation like that, like it's nothing, and just boom, boom, and he's gone. And he's not even the speediest guy. You might be able to catch up to him, but by the time you catch up to him, he already has the ball and he ran 10 yards after the catch. So seeing some easy throws for Mac, I think they're going to create a lot of things like that, try to make it easy on him. Opportunities for guys to run after the catch, but I think both our stat lines they're pretty similar. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is around where he is.
For sure. Big games, we're hoping from Mac. I think coming out and throwing for any of these numbers, right in the 180 realm, 200 would be great. A touchdown, maybe a couple, and limiting his turnovers. That's going to be great for Patriots fans. And obviously, the big thing's getting the win. So let's get into our score predictions on if we see New England winning here. And we'll let you start us off, Cole.
Yeah, I have it being a low scoring game. Both defenses, both offenses do just kind of a solid game all around, where the defense kind of holds the offense to not a ton of points. We saw both games last year. First game we won like low 20s to mid 10s. Second game they won 22-12. So not a ton of scoring last year. I know it's a different team. Our team is a lot better, a lot more improved this year than it was last year, and they made some nice additions as well. Jalen Waddle, Will Fuller, but he won't be playing. They made a lot of additions as well, but I think we improved a lot more than they did, and I have us just slightly pulling out the win at home. Crowd's going to be back at Gillette. I mean, big game, divisional week 1. And when Bill has time to game plan, even if you don't have a lot of tape, when he has time to game plan, there's nobody better. So I'm giving it to Bill, this defense, being able to stop Tua. He didn't do it last year. He didn't have the pieces to do it last year. So I got us pulling out the victory in a close one, 23-20.
Well, that's good. I'm right with you. I'm going 27-23. Obviously, 3 touchdowns. I mentioned the 2 thrown by Mac that I think, 1 rushing one, and then I have Quinn Nordine hitting a couple field goals on drives that get stalled. But I think that what's going to help us with Miami is, I pulled up this stat here because this is another one that is important, but touchdowns in the red zone given up by our defense. Last year, we were 28th overall. So we gave up 65% of the time we let teams in the red zone, they were getting touchdowns. And that's big. You want to be around, the good teams are around 45%, which was Denver. You want to be around that 50% mark where they're getting field goals to touchdowns. So we got to get that number down. I have it here, 2 touchdowns, 3 field goals. That's how I got them to 23, because I want New England's defense to get back to the days where they were bend but not break. You saw some bend. Teams can get down the field on this defense, but they don't let them get in the end zone. That's the key. And if they keep them out of the end zone, in the red zone, if they keep that red zone touchdown number around 40%, they win this game, in my opinion. And that's, saying the offense plays good. They don't turn the ball over, but they cannot let them score 70% of the score touchdowns 70% of the time they get in the red zone. If Miami gets in the red zone, gosh, I don't know, I'm jumping ahead saying Buffalo. If Miami gets in the red zone 4 times and scores 3 touchdowns, there's a problem there. If they get in 5 and we allow 3 or 4, that's still a little, 4 would be high, 3 would be, ideal. But you got to think, if they get in 5 times or 4 times, you got to hold them to 1 or 2 touchdowns, and maybe they hit a long touchdown pass or something. So that's where I have my 27-23 score coming for the New England, their first win. Like you mentioned, circumstances are in our favor. Home opener, season opener, fans back at Gillette, Max starting. It just seems too good to be true for Bill to come out and for New England not to play good.
Yeah, and I know we've had struggles early in the season at different times in our history, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a huge game. I think the fans, even if we had some fans, it was never a packed Gillette Stadium for the preseason game. It was never really loud and true excitement. I mean, it's a preseason game. You only get so excited. Obviously, you get excited for plays, good plays and stuff, but you're not as excited as a touchdown in a regular season game and preseason game. 2 very different things. So build time to game plan. Home opener versus the Dolphins. I honestly think overall we're a better team than the Dolphins, as long as Mac is solid. I think it's going to be heavily dependent on how Mac does this year. Even when Cam was here, I said this team is going to go as far as a quarterback takes them, because this defense could be very elite. Offensive line is going to be top 5, top 3, even could be the best in the league, depending on how these guys do health wise. So, I mean, good run game, decent solid wide receivers, great tight ends. I think this team has a lot of potential, and if Mac is just solid and limits his turnovers, we're going to be in every football game. I don't see us getting blown out of any games, really.
Yep, I totally agree. This is one that, come out, start the league year off strong, but we're there. I mean, Sunday, September 12th, kickoff is at 4:25 Eastern time, 2:25 Mountain time, which is my time. Most of you guys probably on the East Coast, so you'll get 4:25, but I'm excited as heck, man. It just, watching college football last week too made me realize how different football is with fans. And yeah, we got football last year, but here in a packed Gillette Stadium, it's gonna be different, and you get to be there to experience it. I'm excited. You're gonna
I'm so
I'm
excited.
sure you'll post some stuff on your story, but
Oh, absolutely.
I'm excited to see that. So that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited. I mean, football is back. I can't believe tomorrow, even tomorrow night. Obviously, both gonna be watching.
Yep.
Bucks Cowboys, first real taste of regular season football. It's gonna be great. But one thing I did want to touch on real quick before we end this is team captains came out today, and offensive side of the ball, center David Andrews and running back James White were named captains. Defense side of the ball, Dante Hightower and Devin McCourty, and then special teams, Matt Slater was named captain. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick before we say anything else. But yeah, I mean it's exciting. I can't wait. Week 1, we're finally here. We've been talking about it all off season, and now we're actually gonna have real football to dissect. We'll show some videos, go over some film, all that stuff. I think it's gonna be a really fun season for us covering it here, different stuff like this. It's going to be a whole new way of watching the Pats and covering the Pats than anything I've ever done before. I've obviously done the Instagram stuff before, but now I'll be doing that and covering it on the podcast, deeper dive into film and all that stuff with you. So I'm super excited for just the season in general.
Me too. And one more thing, since you brought up the captains, that reminded me, and this is just something, but Ramondre Stevenson's thumb. We forgot to mention that, but we'll hit on that real quick. The injured. Hopefully not too many guys on the injury report. The injury report looked very thin today. I think there's only 3 guys on it, right?
Yeah, 3 guys were limited.
Yeah. And there's optimism that Ramondre can play now. Yes, he had a great offseason. Yes, we traded Sony Michel. I still don't know how many carries he's going to get, especially with this thumb injury now. Maybe some goal line stuff. So Ramondre Stevenson, that's something to look on. Maybe they don't even give him any carries now that his thumb's hurting him, and they just use JJ Taylor, James White, guys that can come in there and carry the ball and then be a threat in the passing game to make life easy on Mac Jones. But that was an injury I wanted to hit on, and then the other 2 guys on the injury report.
Yeah, so actually, Ramondre Stevenson wasn't even on the injury report, which is the good news.
Wow.
So at practice today, he didn't have a cast, any type of splint. He had nothing on his thumb or hand, which is great news. So hopefully he's fine. Wasn't on the injury report, so I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be good to go this weekend. The 3 on the injury report were wide receiver Nelson Aguilar with the ankle injury. A little concerning, like I said. That's not something you want to see. Biggest wide receiver we signed in free agency, and he's hurt before the season even starts, especially with all the trouble he's had. I'm a little bit frustrated in that sense. I want to see him healthy. Obviously, he's not choosing to be unhealthy, but not choosing to get hurt. But it is frustrating. You want to see a guy have a big impact and be ready to go week 1. Second guy, tackle Yadni Kajust. Not a starter, not something to be too concerned about, but he might be one of the first guys coming off the bench if one of our tackles gets hurt. So something to keep an eye on. He was limited, and Jalen Mills was limited as well, which is a little concerning because he'll probably be our second outside corner covering one of the Dolphins players. But just 3 guys for us on the injury report. Liam Eichenberg limited for the Dolphins, and wide receiver Preston Williams also limited. So a couple guys on their end, and then the COVID, one of their tight ends, their backup tight end is out for the game, and then their starting left tackle is going to be questionable depending on how the COVID test goes. Yep. But the only thing is, I mean, we didn't really touch on necessarily a lot of the specific players on the Dolphins, but Devontae Parker is probably going to be matched up with JC Jackson. Jalen Waddle is probably going to be matched up with Jonathan Jones. And then, so that kind of leaves the Dolphins' 3rd, 4th wide receiver is going to be covered by Jalen Mills or Jawan Williams, one of those guys. So that kind of makes me feel a little better because Will Fuller's not going to be out serving his last game of his suspension. But yeah, I mean, the Dolphins got a lot of talented guys, defensive line, secondary linebackers. It's going to be a really, really tough game for us, and divisional, those games are always better. So, I mean, yeah, I'm super pumped. We're finally getting back to real football and real stuff to talk about. And the games are counting. Now if we go 3-0 first 3 games, it's gonna stick there on the schedule and not go away, not disappear. So
it's not gonna get erased. So
no, it is not. Yeah. Super excited.
Me too. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Go Patriots this week. Cole, have fun at the game, but I'll let you take it out.
Thank you. Yeah, guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram, Jace at the Sports Bell at the sports_bell.
Yeah, geez, now I can't remember how to pull up our names.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
At the
There you go.
sports bell _ pod. At Patriots Drive on Instagram, and then subscribe to the YouTube channel. Listen on Anchor, wherever you guys get your podcast. But thank you guys for tuning in. We're gonna have an episode, not Sunday night, unfortunately, because I will be at the game, so I won't be able to do one there. But Monday night, hopefully, we will have an episode coming out. We're gonna do a whole recap. We'll have hopefully some film to break down for you guys, go over all that different stuff, thoughts on the game, and I'm so excited. I'm sure you guys are as well. But thank you guys again for listening, and tune back in on Monday night after hopefully the Patriots secure their first win of the season.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.